Hi, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoyed this critical thought, a detailed discussion on game design, and be sure to subscribe and you can pitch future critical thought topics. Alright everybody, for today's critical thought, we are returning to the topic of subjective difficulty in game design. And keep tuned to the channel in a few days because the next Dissecting Design is going to be on the game Snake Pass, which is a really great example of this. But subjective difficulty is a topic I've talked about many times before, and it's a really good example of almost masterclass game design. Not every game can do it, but the ones that get it right can lead to some of the most unique and interesting titles around. So when we talk about subjective difficulty, what this essentially is that the game levels are designed in a way that anyone of any skill level can play them and still make progress. And I know what you're thinking, that doesn't sound all that complex. Games are built on an ever-growing progression curve. But what makes subjective difficulty unique is that you have the same level, but it's designed in a way that different skill levels can play that level differently. And that requires a very keen understanding of your game's design and building that into the levels. As I just said a few seconds ago, in a typical video game, a progression curve usually works like this. Over time, difficulty gets higher, higher, and higher. We get to the final level, we have this grand test of all the mechanics. You beat it, credits roll, you win the game. Subjective difficulty works a little bit different than that. In this case, if I get my hands right, you have the beginners down here and the experts over here. And as time goes on, both groups are playing the game at the same time. But if you notice, the expert players will always have a higher challenge. And then as time goes on, they'll come together. And I know that was not a really good representation, just because of the fact that I'm trying to look at this while moving my hand using the reflection of my webcam. That's not easy to do. But as time goes on, the beginners will eventually combine to the expert. And the importance of that is when you get to the final level or the final series of challenges in a game, all the players in your game should be at relatively the same level. But throughout the game, there is always beginner, advanced, and expert challenges built into every level. This way, basically everyone is making progress at their own pace without feeling like they're being tethered or pulled along by someone else. New players aren't going to be, thrown into the hardest stuff at the beginning just to keep expert players happy. And expert players don't have to feel like we have to go through 20 levels of tutorials before we get to the good stuff. But, like I said, it's very tricky to design levels like this, and not every game can work on this, or work along this line. When it comes to subjective difficulty, there are a few constants that have to be in your game. The first is that there should be very little mechanic progress throughout your title. What that means is from minute 1 to minute, who knows, 600, a few hours, whatever, the player's mechanics or their abilities will not change. This isn't like a Metroidvania title where new moves are added in that change how you play your game. So games like Castlevania, or even RPGs that are built on progressing through new unlocks along that front, wouldn't count. We usually look at games that are built on action or player control as a good example of subjective difficulty. Really good examples would be stuff like the 3D Mario games, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and even something like Demon's Souls, which despite having RPG progression, is still built on a higher than normal difficulty curve and forcing everyone to adapt to it. But the reason why I brought Snake Pass up and why it's going to be the subject of the Dissecting Design is that it is a really good example of this. Your character, the Snake Noodle, doesn't unlock any new abilities throughout the game. His length never changes, how he moves never gets altered. The environment does change, and that is a major part of subjective difficulty design. But what I'm doing from the first minute to the last is always the same. But my mastery of the mechanics and what tricks and such I can pull off, that grows. And Mario Galaxy is another really great example of this. From the first level of Mario Galaxy, you have access to all of Mario's advanced maneuvers. Triple jump, wall jump, spin jump, running crouch jump into a spin to then wall jump to then get over a platform, stuff like that. And of course, while that stuff is available, the player is not being tested on that. And someone brand new to Mario Galaxy is not going to have to use a triple jump on level 1. But there are sections that are designed around shortcuts or hidden objects that require those advanced maneuvers. So this way, a beginning player can get through this level, again, run, jump, that's it. Expert players will be able to make use of all these advanced moves to find more objects or find hidden paths. And a really good example of this, which if I could record this, I would love to do it, is the difference between Super Mario Galaxy's first level as a beginner, someone who doesn't make use of any advanced maneuvers, versus someone who's an expert and makes use of this. Another really good case of this is from the game Action Hank, which we looked at, I think, last year or the year before. When I spoke with the developers about the game, they talked about how they designed the time trials of the game. Basically, you get a different medal based on bronze, silver, gold, and then there's like a super platinum kind of medal thing. And what they did in order to get the times was say, okay, I'm going to play through this level and not use any advanced mechanics. Let me get the basic time, that'll be our bronze. Okay, now let me make use of a few little shortcuts, but not perfectly optimized. That'll be our silver. Now let me use a little bit more and, speed things along, that'll be my gold. And then like the platinum is basically, I'm doing this level 100% perfectly, complete mastery, let's see you beat that. And with subjective difficulty, that's kind of how you have to approach these things. Is you have to design the levels with, I'm sorry, my mouth is really wet today. I think it's my allergies that are bothering me. But you have to design these levels in a way that is built around different skill levels and still allowing progress to be made. Again, you're not holding things back, but someone who's an advanced player doesn't have to wait until level 5 to make use of the triple jump. Just as someone who's brand new doesn't have to be forced to use wall jumps and spin jumps from the get-go. Now, with that said, another way to get around or to add to subjective difficulty is with multiple tiers of collectibles. And this is what Snake Pass and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts both did really well. In both titles, again, the levels and their objectives are unchanged, whether you have 20 hours in the game or 20 minutes. But the collectibles are set up to challenge players of various skill levels. The gemstones in Snake Pass are your beginner's challenge. You must get these 3 items or you can't beat the game. The blue orbs, I'm not even sure what their names are, they are your moderate challenge. They're placed, in hard to reach spots. Maybe they're hidden in a few spot areas, but it's still within, again, an advanced player. And then the expert are the gold coins, and these are put in some ridiculously crazy areas, and this is where it's going to test you as a player. Now, going back to the example that I said before regarding my hands in this weird position, what happens is that the expert challenge at the start will not be as hard as, let's say, the beginner challenge, let's say 5-6 levels down the line. Because of the fact that the difficulty curve is still growing, but the expert players will always have things harder than the normal ones until we get to the end when everyone should be at the same level. And like I said, this is something that not every game can do, but it can really help to elevate your game's design. For one thing, it almost guarantees that everyone will be able to enjoy your game. Again, a new player is not going to feel rushed or pressured into doing advanced stuff, while expert players aren't going to have to wait for everyone to catch up before you start letting them cut loose. Some other examples of games that kind of fit this but almost skirt that line would be kind of like the programming or challenging games from Zachtronics. In these Zachtronics games like Space Chem, Infinite Factory, and etc., Again, every mechanic is given to the player from the get-go, but it doesn't have beginner, moderate, and advanced challenges in the way that if I just make a basic solution to a puzzle, it still has to work. Basically, we all have to come up with the bare minimum requirements for that puzzle. But as our mastery grows and we start learning more of the advanced tricks, then we can start to improvise or start to elevate our designs. And anyone who's watched like TIS 100 or Shenzhen IO can certainly attest to how the basic solution can be far different from that advanced one that takes you to the top of the histograms. But let's wrap things up here. For those of you watching, can you think of any good examples of subjective difficulty in games that you've played? And what do you think about these kinds of designs? Again, they're built around the fact that anyone can play these games, but at the same time, everyone is accommodated by the design. And again, it's not that easy to do. And one of the things that I find very interesting, and this is actually a really good example of some advanced game design thinking, is that it forces you to think about your game in terms of beginner, advanced, and expert challenges. It's not just saying, I'm going to start my game, there we go, down here, very easy, and then work my way up. It's basically saying, if this is my starting level, will be considered an advanced challenge, and then will be considered an expert challenge. And how do we wrap all that up into a single level? And like we said, it's very easy on in a general sense to say, okay, here's my easy level, here's my advanced level, here's my expert level. But designing levels to fit all three of those at the same time is a much harder challenge. And this is also a really good lesson for new designers as well. Think about your mechanics and think about, how would I design using this mechanic an easy version of this? Now, how do I make one that's for advanced players? And then how do I take this further for expert players? Because it starts to force you to think about these in different tiers. And it's not just about saying having an easy challenge, medium, and hard. It's about having a mechanic that can be approached at multiple levels. But with that said, we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. If you have a suggestion for a critical thought, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But check back daily for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. So until tomorrow, have a great night. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GW for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GW for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.